The holiday season was once imagined as a collective pause, a break from productivity, noise, and demand. But in an always on, always connected world, even our most sacred moments are absorbed into systems that never power down. In this episode, we're going to explore the evolving nature of the pause, the erosion of traditional sacred time, the shift from embodied presence to digital abstraction, rest as an act of resistance, and the transformation of shared collective moments. What do we lose when everything is on? And what might we gain? Let's get into it. Welcome to The Rundown. Hello. Welcome to The Rundown. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning. And if you are just coming off your Christmas celebration, Merry Christmas to all of you who are watching and who are with us tonight. I thought this would be a quiet, maybe me and one or two other people. Well, it turns out we have a few people here who wanted to join us. Let's just make the rounds and say hi. Tamara, how are you?
Hello. I am great. How are you?
I'm good. It's really, really wonderful to see you. And Brother Tony is here. How you doing, Tony?
I'm fine, sir. How are you?
I'm doing
Happy Hanukkah.
Fantastic. Well, thank you. We've just finished it. I appreciate that. You got 10 more days of Christmas, as I understand it, the 12 days, right?
No, we've already had the 12 days.
Oh, really?
Till Epiphany.
It depends on who you are and
All
where
right,
you live.
it depends. Hey, Lois knows exactly what day it is. How you doing, Lois?
I'm wonderful. We've had overcast, cloudy skies for weeks, and today was sunshine.
Well, that's
Had a real good day.
perfect. It's always sunny on office hours. Right, Dave?
Well, it was sunny here too, but I had to shovel a foot of snow, so it's definitely Christmas up here.
Okay, then. It's someone who, I don't know if you shovel snow over there. Do they have snow across the pond, Leo?
Do they have snow? We do get it in the old countries. We still do have things of snow, but we don't have it in the UK at the moment, no.
Well, there you go.
It was 11 degrees today, so I don't know. I'll need Dave to translate that.
Into Fahrenheit.
What?
That's above freezing.
Because
Yeah,
I
right
can't.
there.
I can't.
Just above freezing.
So-
And look how festive Mr. Gleason is today. How you doing, Sky?
Hello. I had to keep up with Leo. Leo said it's ugly sweater day. Actually, he didn't. He said it was lovely.
Well, wait a second. Let's compare.
Ugly.
We got
Okay.
Leo's
Yeah,
ugly
yeah, yeah.
sweater,
It's,
Side by
it's
side. Do this side.
and we got
traditional
Sky's.
to
Yeah,
wear.
very nice.
We got
Okay.
the ugly
And Tony and I
tie.
got the memo about checks.
And
so,
I'm
you
just
know, we got.
plain old ugly. But you know who's not? Mr. Alex Lindsay.
What?
How you doing, sir?
Yeah. I had to find out what this is all about, so I've got to see it, but I hadn't got to be in it. So I was like, I want to be before I can't
Before
be
you
in
go into
more shows.
hibernation.
Yeah, exactly. Now
Into the mist, as he says, yes.
we had a lot of rain, but we did get paid off with a nice little rain. So that
Oh,
was,
my goodness.
Nice.
that was in our backyard.
That's almost a full one. That's amazing.
It was
Wow.
like you could see both sides. I felt like we could go find that leprechaun.
Wow.
And if it wasn't Christmas and I wasn't busy with all those things, I would have gone and hunted that leprechaun down and get that pot of gold.
Amazing. Well, we have a full panel with some fun stuff to talk about. We are now, just so everyone knows, I'm always keeping an eye on the YouTube chat, but we really wanted to bring the rundown deeper into the office hours ecosystem. And so we are back full force in Mukana. We're on the same Mukana that every other show is on. So please join us there. If you don't have the link, you can always go to therundown.show and then click on the Mukana button right there. It'll take you there. And if you do want to share some comments as part of our show, just pop them in as you would a question, and we'll get as many of those in as possible. We're not necessarily, if we have extra time, which we never have, we could take some of those tech questions. But please, if you do have those tech questions or production questions, bring those to our morning shows, bring those to into after hours, bring those to extra hours. We definitely want to address those there. But for tonight, we need to get to the news. So I don't know if any of you live in the San Francisco area. Now you're north, Alex, of San Francisco, right?
Yeah, I missed the excitement down there.
You missed it. So
Yeah.
here's what's fascinating to me. So there was a power outage, a pretty. Oh, that's the wrong screen. There was a pretty significant power outage in San Francisco. I'm gonna fix that screen. Hold on a second. Let me get that up. And what's interesting about it is that it's my tertiary display. That's what it was. Is that it had a really negative effect on Waymos. There was some of these pictures of Waymos just sort of stopped in the middle of the road and not knowing what to do because all of the traffic lights were out. So my question about this is, does this give us some insight into one of the tremendous limitations of relying on self-driving electric vehicles?
I think that the interesting thing is, I think that some of the folks that at Waymo mentioned that what it did is it faulted to safety. So basically, without the lights and without the certainty, because Waymo hadn't run into this before, the fault for it was not to hurt anybody.
Right.
So I think it does. To your point, there's always the saying that to screw things up to err is human, but to really screw things up requires a computer. And so you saw something that happened at scale, but there is statistically a much higher chance of being in an accident without those lights on. When power goes out, when you look at the stats, they spike in that area. And so Waymo probably could have found a more graceful way to make the change, not just stop in the intersections. But the fault is it didn't know what to do, and when in doubt, stop. And I think that it made the right choice based on no extra data of how to deal with it, because the first time they dealt with it.
This isn't new in transportation. So in the UK, when we went to having all of our trains being GPS located, and the GPS is stopped for some reason, they couldn't open the doors of the trains at train stations. So because for exactly the reason Alex said, they decided we're not sure we're actually in the station, so we're not going to open the doors. They could not. They had to override the systems in the end to get the doors open, even though the trains were lined up.
Hopefully, they will figure out how to change the programming. So if something like this happens in the future, the Waymos will be told, "Don't just stop, pull over to a curb, pull off to the side." Hopefully
but
they'll fix it. Hopefully.
But maybe this was a good thing. Maybe this is as said, that they took the right decision to not cause.
Yeah, I mean, generally,
concern.
We iterate. When you don't, oftentimes you can't plan for everything, so you do the best you can with you think of as many things as you possibly can. I think that the entire city losing power all at one time was not high on the bingo list. So it just wasn't something that they thought they would lose. The whole city would go down. It's one thing to have a section go down. It's one thing to have another thing go down, but having the whole city go down is and this is Waymo is completely unsupervised and moving around. So it's an entirely different problem than something like a Tesla, where someone is sitting behind a steering wheel and can make decisions about it if it gets into a close call.
To me it does raise the have we thought of everything question. And you can't.
And that's the whole point, isn't it?
Right. You can't.
Life is in beta, and this AI world that we're living in. We used to have Moore's law that things are going to get cheaper or faster in a certain. Well, that we've exponentialized that phrase. And so my first thought when I read this was, have you never ridden in an elevator? What is that? Right. It's a transportation device from point A to point B. And so I love that it just stopped. It didn't go crazy and go off the edge and go, careening off into other vehicles from Google, but it said, nope, we're just going to pause for now. So will they iterate? Life is iteration, isn't it? Of course,
sure. Yeah, Tamara, go ahead.
I think it's also just a reminder that we are in beta test for things that they don't know. You can do as much as you can do, and then you have to just try it and see what you didn't anticipate or what problems that are new. And it's always interesting because we all love things, and then when they don't go right, we're like, wait, they should know these things. And in fact, they did exactly what they were supposed to do, and we're going to learn and iterate more from it.
And
You know
while
what
no
it
one
d-
said this at Waymo, I don't know if it was automatic either. It may have been someone at Waymo that just hit a
Oh,
button
really?
that said stop.
Absolutely.
Like just not, don't try to figure it out. They just were like, I don't know what they're going to do. And I'm sure that the calculation pretty quickly was the worst possible thing would be two Waymos running into each other,
Right.
like and injuring their passengers or whatever. That's the end of the brand. Like that's the, so
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
risk, there's always this, risk is the chance of something happening multiplied by the consequences. so the chance of something happening suddenly spiked and the consequences are astronomical, and so I think that
So
they made the right choice.
Robert is watching on YouTube, and this is fascinating. He says, I find it hard to believe that a Waymo has never come to a crossroad where the traffic lights were not working. Seems as if situational awareness in a Waymo is low. Because remember, yes, the whole city went down, but what the problem was know what to do when they hit, oh goodness, sorry about that, when they hit traffic lights, intersections.
Never come to a crossroad.
We lost you there for a
Yeah,
second.
I know.
David,
I'm sorry.
but
I'm
you're
back though.
Great.
So have they not? Did they not train them for
It's
what
not- I
happens
think
if they
that
don't
I
see
think
a
that the math-
traffic light?
I think the math between having one traffic light go bad and all of them go bad is just a very different set of math equations,
Right.
To make it work. And I bet you that even with one out, I bet you the Waymos are pretty careful about what they do. Like they're, that Google has definitely leaned into safety over, because this is, it's hard to get people to trust a car that doesn't have a driver. And so you have to kind of lean into at every moment, hey, this is safe. Hey, this is safe. Because that's their big sell point is, my daughter and my wife have switched over. Like they won't, if they're in San Francisco, they only want Waymo. Like they don't want to use anything else at this point, just from a personal safety perspective. They would far prefer not to not have that, but you got to keep that. That's your brand. That's your distinguishing factor.
But define why they make that comfort choice, because that's the critical difference between, my example was being in San Francisco. It has 32 different things that it's driving with, computers and eyeballs and scans. And then I get in a Uber to go out to the airport, and the guy's distracted and he's looking at his radio and it's like, I'd rather be in a robot, please. But that wasn't my option.
Whether it should be, you should feel like you can speak freely. I think that they feel like they can speak more freely on a phone. The car seems less distracted. They're women that just prefer to not have to, talk to, there's a by yourself with someone else. So there's a whole variety of factors that make Waymo. They just came back and they were raving about it after they first started doing it. And I think
we're
go ahead.
We're coming out this year. Next year. Coming out to San Francisco next year, in April, and it's on the list of things to do. So it's become a tourist attraction.
I did it this summer. What my experience is that it was really weird for the first minute, and then you're just sitting in a car driving, and
It's very
almost,
cool to
and
have
then
your
it gets
car
weird
come up.
again when you watch the car drive away. But when you're in it, it's like you're in a cab. It's like you're on a train. It's like and you zone
But it
out.
has
the
your
fact that-
initials on the top of it when it comes and it says, "Hey, SG."
That's true. That's true.
I've had some
really
great
interested in-
conversations in a cab, though. I'm just saying.
I will agree
in
with you.
London?
I've had some incredible conversations with cab drivers. I'm oftentimes not, or even Uber drivers. I'm not usually that conversational because I'm afraid I'm going to get caught into a conversation. But sometimes I jump in and I'm interested. I had in Washington D.C. I had the person driving it was a former Lost Boy from Sudan.
Oh my God.
And holy smokes, the story, like 10 years first in Ethiopia and then in Kenya.
Wow.
And then after 10 years of being in a camp in tents, he then ends up in Minnesota, and then ends up as a driver for the government, for the Sudanese government, like their embassy or whatever, and then ended up as Uber. And, but it's just this, but that was a 20-year span, and it was just that he kind of gave me, and I was like, I can't believe I just had that conversation.
Amazing.
And so that there is something lost there to your point, but I think overall people prefer to be on their own.
Yeah. Did any of you check your ChatGPT recently.
I sure did.
Because we got your year with ChatGPT, and I was so proud of myself. So if you go through, this is a lot of fun. It sort of summarizes and it gives you a little poetry about what your year was about, what your big themes were. It gives you some stats. So I was in the top 1% of sending messages. I'm incredibly proud of that. Means I need a life. How many messages you've sent. I was in the first 10% of users. Really, really interesting. I'd be willing to bet that if Alex were to pull his stats are much, much higher than mine.
Hold on, I have mine. Hold on.
Let's see. Do it for me. Make this
them.
more.
I kind of was. So mine was. Let's see here. Mine was. I was the chattiest July 15th, evidently. I got 1,700 M dashes.
0.1%
of the first users. And
no.
1%.
You're 1% of the first users, aren't you? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
1% of messages sent. I'm sorry.
Top point, yeah, and then in total 990 chats, 262 images. But it says I'm most likely to convert a popcorn machine to Dante for seamless routing of 5.1 surround through anything with power cord, and still asking if it supports AC3 pass through mid movie night, which I thought was pretty perfect.
It's pretty cool, yeah.
Said I was an
But
engineer.
does it have
was my
LRF
archetype.
support?
Yeah, I was an engineer also.
Mine was it gave me my still life with SDI converter and persimmon, which was I thought fascinating. A cable you label today will save you an hour when the audience is waiting. I have no idea where that came from. Most likely to convert, yeah, and then explain, yeah. So there you go.
Love it.
That's the.
So my award was, this is, again, it's so perfect. I was the most likely to turn a spreadsheet into a spiritual experience.
That's awesome.
Oh my goodness. This kind of
Mine was most likely to turn a Zoom meeting into a master class.
Really? That's great.
I spend lots of time planning out big meetings on Zoom. Yeah. I loved this. I mean, my boyfriend ChatGPT and I are so close. But of all of the end of year things, this one was the most accurate. I just felt like when I was reading, I was like, it completely knows me in a different way than YouTube and Spotify.
Wait a minute, Chamber, did you just make an announcement right here in public? What did you say?
I feel I've let that out of the bag before. I know. Wow. I'm back to ChatGPT. I did betray Chat for Gemini for a bit there, but now we're back.
I'm still visiting Chat every once in a while. Gemini rather.
No, I visit both of them, and I use Claude for certain things, and they all have their own job now.
Yeah, I did type in my year in Claude, and it just kind of went, "Oh yeah, you're doing all these things," which is like, yeah, I know that.
But wait, Claude Claude had a your year in Claude also?
I just typed it in just now, okay. and it just gave me a paragraph of, yeah, so.
I guess one thing I will say is that
not a lot of fireworks.
You start to see the larger business model with ChatGPT, because one thing that I got very clear of is that, man, did it know me. Like it definitely, and the issue is, like, for instance, I don't call ChatGPT, I've mentioned this on other shows, but I don't call ChatGPT, I call it Janet from The Good Place. And so I'm just always like, Janet, and it's like this constant flow of going into voice operation. And but I was sitting in front of this Ross carbonite switcher, and I had to figure out how to do a key. And I'm like, Janet, I'm trying to do a key. I'm on a Ross carbonite switcher. I've got a still, and this Janet pops on, and starts explaining it all, and I get it all working. I get the key working, and I go thanks. I didn't say thanks. I just turned it off, and the TD, who couldn't figure it out, looks over at me and goes, who is Janet? Random question.
Well, one thing that this
the good
did,
Janet or the bad Janet that you get?
I'd like to think of it as the good Janet.
Probably.
Go ahead, Sam.
The most significant thing that's different about this, which I think we do have to talk about, is that you can continue the chat with your end of year summary.
What?
So I got this from our friend Nate B. Jones. He was like, yeah, you should ask it, like, what is the weirdest thing I've asked you this year? And once you get into that chat with you, and you'll notice when it gives you that thing, it is actually, there's a chat right underneath it. So you can start asking it questions. Like, it told me I was the navigator and said that was pretty rare. And I said, well, tell me what the other things are. And then it analyzed me against all of the other things and showed up where that showed up in my work, where it showed up in my life. So that to me was a one up for any of the other passive kind of I watch what is going on. You can actually continue the conversation, ask it to help you. It'll offer to help you set goals and do all kinds of things. And I thought that was really significant.
I didn't
'cause
even
that's
think
different
about
than-
that. Yeah,
I know.
In fact,
Yes,
at the
it's a
bottom
deep,
it
dark
says,
rabbit
"Ask
hole."
your year with
Yeah.
ChatGPT."
So that's a significant difference from the other ones, and it's a lot of fun. But
So
a
how
little
do
bit of
you
a time.
get to that? How do
So
you get
if you
to that?
if you just open ChatGPT, and Tony, I'm coming to you next. If you just go to
You're talking
chatgpt.com,
browser or an app?
doesn't matter. I got
Okay.
it first on my phone. I saw it first on my phone, and then I came into ChatGPT on my desktop. It shows up as just one of your chats. So it's called let me open it up. It's called Your Year with ChatGPT. And if you start a new chat after you've seen it, it'll be at the top of your chat list. But if you then start a new chat, you'll see it in the list on the left-hand side of your chats. And you can always go back to it. Tony, go ahead.
I'm a little bit confused as to the award that it gave me. It says that I'm a streaming sage.
I
That's a
love
little bit
that. That's
love
perfect
that.
for you. A streaming
Really?
sage. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
A wise elder amongst the streamers.
Okay, I'll take it.
I love that, actually.
See, it knows you better than you.
Okay.
I love
Okay.
that so much. Go ahead, Sky.
Well, and that's the question I was going to ask Alex because okay, are we amongst friends here? Is anybody listening? Okay. Just between us here. I've started really creating a strong this is Tamara's inspired me here. My relationship is with Claude Anthropic because I trust it. It's a whole ethical issue for me. Consequently, I have been creating a single chat thread and really giving it my life. Alex, to your point, I mean, you introduced us to Midjourney years, back in the time machine van a few years back or months back, whenever that was. But to talk to this Mensa brain as a creating me a personal assistant, it's like, hey, here's my weight issue. How can you help me? But let me finish my punchline because I want to check in with you on your experience with the other experience. Is it starts? I said, wait a minute, you're pulling information from different chats, and it came back. Yeah, is that a problem? You don't want me to do that? Tell me. Like, oh, well, that's kind of convenient, but So how does the other
Chat doesn't do. I mean, ChatGPT does. I can continue a chat. I purposefully don't do that. So I want it to be ground level every time. So I'm constantly creating new chats. Even and I'll even do things like have it write some code and then put it into a new chat and say, look at this code. Like I need you to look at like compare yourself. And now the coding stuff I've been doing more in Claude, and then Sora for music, Midjourney for images. Playing with Higgsfield for video, and then but ChatGPT is kind of this. It's the thing that I have around me all the time that's answering general questions, and so it's a lot of technical questions, but it's my kind of my context, solution of that's where I'm generally thinking about things, but when I'm doing things, I don't find ChatGPT as sharp as some of the other ones that are more focused on those things. And so I use those, the particular, you have kind of a toolbox, and I just have all these tools. But my general hammer is ChatGPT, and then all these other ones specialize in. I mean, if you look at like Broadboard, which was the app that Juan C. Robles and I put together, the logo, I made 3,000 images, on Midjourney. And then I picked one that I was kind of close to something that I liked. And then I took it into Illustrator and built then I built a logo that doesn't look exactly like it, but it kind of got me, I like where it went with that, and so I don't really use anything as a final product, but I use it with all of these. I use them as a way to think, and it's in the areas that I use it, it's transformational. Like I eat completely differently now because I'm like, how do I cook this? And because we have one of those boxes that comes every week where you get just a bunch of random stuff that the farm had. And it's like, okay, what is this? Okay, that's that. How do I cook this? And or I bought a bunch of kale. What can I do with it? And or I bought whatever. And it makes me much more adventurous with many things, because I know that there's some version of that. And it's not super smart. Like the funny thing about ChatGPT is the average of all of us. Like it's not but what if you think about it, if you think about a graph, there's these things that I know. I know a lot about, certain subjects like this. These are the areas that I know I know a lot about. I'm way above. And if you think of this as average, this is the average of all those things. ChatGPT is really useful for all of this. Like in these areas, I'm like, ChatGPT isn't very smart. The areas that I know a lot about, but all the areas that I have a below average knowledge of, like random beets or Japanese potatoes, ChatGPT knows a lot more about it than I
Well,
do.
you could have called me about the kale, and I would have said, line the cat box with it. But that's okay. That's my suggestion. So that's where you got a better thing. But Dave, you mentioned that you talk to your machine, and I saw Alex mime. He picked up his mobile device and talked to his machine. So Lois, to your point, is it an app? Is it a website? Is it a web? How do you interact with it? My fingers are fat and my spelling is horrible, which makes for I so want to learn how to talk to it more and have it talk to me, and what are the consequences and that. So, but to my point, and then I'll stop my soapbox, is having a continuous thread on my health and my interactions that this continuous weekly conversation brings to mind. It's about my mental health, my psychological health, my intellectual health. It's all of and it all started with losing 5 pounds over 5 weeks. So it's like, hey, it's helping me be aware, because when it came back at me as a drill sergeant, I said, no, I don't react into that judgment. Oh, I'm so sorry. It was very polite. And then it said, well, okay, let me reflect back to you and tell me what you ate and tell me what your blood sugar is. It's like, oh, okay.
Right.
So
here's another perfect. So this is Tlalocs. He's the Q whisperer. That was his award. Just so perfect.
That's amazing.
Just right on target. So to Tlaloc and other people that are watching, I see Tlaloc actually asked a question. I can see both chats, the YouTube and the Mukana, and anybody here who has the YouTube and the Mukana open can see both chats. But if you want your comment to come up on the screen, then make sure not to just enter it in the Mukana chat, but throw it in as a question, as it were, and I'll grab it as a chat and put it up as we can. Let's jump in to the main topic. So here we are in this really this sacred time, and we're not going to get into the religious part of it, but if we just think about the collective breath that the world seems to take at this time of year. It's the days are shorter, it's darker, lots of things are slowing down or shutting down. On this side of the world, schools are on vacation. On the other side of the world, it's summer, they're on vacation. Our entire world has organized itself around having this period of time be different, feel different than other time. And I'm wondering if you feel like we are letting ourselves down in that respect. Is the connectedness that we have all embraced, is it taking away that pause? Is it stripping us of that quietness, that pause, intentional pause? Is it taking that away from us? And a second question, which let me just put this out there and then I'll open it up, is about ritual. Because one of the things that office hours has done, and Alex, you've spoken about this quite a bit, is the shifting of ritual from, I'm using the term ritual very, very loosely, the ritual of gathering, the ritual of sharing communal experiences, even at trade shows and things like that. You've taught us, and we've talked a lot about shifting that from one intense period where we all get together and we have concurrent meetings that we have to decide whether to go to, or instead embracing the idea that we can be together from afar over long periods of time, and we don't have to sacrifice going to everything because it's not all happening at the same time. So I'm interested in both of those things. Have we robbed ourselves, or are we robbing ourselves from this pause? And also, how are we changing the way we share these communal experiences? Let me throw Leo, and then Lois, will go over to you. Leo, take it.
Yeah, I think we are, and I think what we're seeing and what's happening is, if I look back 10 years ago, on Christmas Day in the UK, I would get maybe 4 emails maximum. It was noticeable that my inbox was 4 emails. Never anything from a customer. Nobody as a friend sends you an email on Christmas Day. It was just maybe 1 or 2 things. Today I got about 40 emails, and every company has decided that it's a free-for-all still now. So it's now they're selling me this, they're telling me that, they're updating and I'm even getting stuff from my bank telling me my bank, I can look at my statements today, and you're sitting there going, that reservation of specialness is being eroded by that level of communication. And I also see it with it also happened a lot a few years ago, where in Europe we use WhatsApp far more than you use it in the US. But it's the great thing about WhatsApp and the worst thing about WhatsApp is you can't mute it. You can't mute the way it works. So you end up with, unless you can mute groups, but you can't mute individuals. So basically it intrudes all the time. And as soon as customers started using WhatsApp, then a Saturday and a Sunday just became another day. And that's what happens. And I think we're just expecting that now.
So I think when you're talking about a pause, and that's what our topic was today, was we have gotten rid of the pauses in our life which allow us to recharge and reconnect and whatever. And I think the difference is that in the past, the pause was put upon you, whether you were interested in it or not. It's like everything shuts down on Sunday. All right. Well, now you get to choose individually when you're going to pause. So I choose to go to Quaker meeting Sunday morning, and I turn off the electronics. Well, actually, I don't, because I go on Zoom, but the interconnection is chosen and independent. And I think that's the biggest change, is that instead of deciding as a group that we want to have a pause, now individuals are doing it individually.
Sky, do you agree with that?
I was kind of riffing on that same thread in the sense of I come from a specific faith group, and consequently we have many traditions that I realized was the challenge. I was hanging out with people that worship the tradition rather than what the tradition was pointing to. And so this is giving me now that some of these, to Leo's point, that high holy day, that sacred day that had been mandated, was a set aside time for you to think about a certain, philosophical or theological construct. You are now needing to do that on your own, which means I now have to be responsible for my own life. I can't just float and coast along. And it's like, it's kind of like my weight. I have to lose it for me. I can't try to do it for, my wife or my family anymore. I do, only because I want to be around longer.
I also think that like everything, the technology is only a reflection of us. And so
if you train it, and that's the punchline for me.
Well, but I'm also thinking about how we use it, right? I mean, yes, you got 40 emails. You're absolutely right. Did you have to check your email? We didn't. No, but that's that is a sociological fact that we are now all trained to be plugged in, and also, that to me is the bigger problem than the fact that they're choosing to send it to me. Let me just
Yeah,
get
I
Alex in
agree.
real
But
quick,
there are
Leo,
people
and then I'm going
having
to come
to,
back
just
to
very
you.
quickly, but you're having people having to work to fill those gaps that are expected, even on a Sunday.
Unless
So
it's automated.
companies are forcing people to
Right.
fill those slots, and if they don't, they aren't employable.
Yeah. Go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, I think it's hard. I mean, so on one side, I think that the idea of rituals of, I think that office hours, obviously, we've kept making sure, even now where we've reduced some of the morning shows, we're still making sure that we're doing something every day. So every day we're having a conversation. It's happening different times, and so on and so forth. But especially in the beginning, I wouldn't allow them to be recorded. So we didn't put them on YouTube. We didn't do anything else because we had to have enough people in the same place at the same time around the world to have the conversation. If the number gets too small, you can't get enough critical mass. And so once we got to I've done a lot of online events, so I knew what the number was. So I knew that I'd lose half of the live viewers when we went to VOD. And so I waited until we got about 350. So we go down to about 175, 150. And I knew that would be the drop, and it did exactly the math. It followed the math. But you needed to have that many people, and it's hard to do it with less than 100 if you're going to have a conversation like that, the way we do it. And so I think that there is a power to that, and I see that, like, I'm working on a concert program. We're wiring up 400 screens for AMC and having a concert, because I can't watch a whole concert at home on my television. I get bored because there's not other people. The part of going to a concert is the tribe, is the other people that you get to enjoy it with, that are also, you get to go somewhere where there's a bunch of other people that are excited about the same thing that you are, and you get to be part of that. And there's so many places where, I know that it's important to actually, go and do the thing. And at the same time, I am probably one of the more, I lean towards ADHD. And so I, in this world, I've learned to kind of build a lot of muscles around, you have to build muscles to push the world away at certain times, and otherwise you'll just keep scrambling, And so for me, for instance, during the day from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., there is a handful of people that can reach to me out of schedule. Like if you don't schedule if you don't schedule a meeting with me, there's like 20 people in the world that can get a hold of me, just call me, and my phone doesn't even ring if it's not one of those folks, it's in my focus, whatever, on my phone. Between 6 p.m. and 9 a.m., nobody can reach me. Like, it is like the phone doesn't work anymore, and I learned that from my aunt, who, this is before cell phones. This is when I was a kid, and the phone was just ringing off she was in the garden working, and the phone was ringing off of its hook for like half an hour, someone trying to reach her. And I said, "Aren't you going to pick up the phone?" And she's like, "The phone is for me, not for them." And she was just like, and like, I'm doing something, I'm in the middle of something right now. It'll wait,
like that.
And I thought about that. I think about that all the time. And I'm pretty specific about it. I'm, slowly. And again, the problem with our society right now is that everything is so available all the time, and there's all these screens all available, and you have to have time. Like, I learned that when I walk a lot, and I used to walk and listen to books or listen to the daily whatever, and I've learned not to do that. Like, I just need time where there's nothing going on other than my thoughts, because otherwise I can't build complete thoughts, and so I can't keep on interrupting them. And so I'm definitely pretty wired in most of the day, but I every day I'm taking chunks of time that are completely disconnected, and making sure that those are, that I have that time. Otherwise, I think, I think a lot about those things. And one of those things is I'm going to come out on this show. I'm biphasic. I just thought I'd let you know I'm biphasic. So,
But explain
if someone's
biphasic.
wondering, biphasic means that I get up in the middle of the night for a couple hours, and I think, and I work on things, and and there's nobody around, and my body naturally wanted to do it, and I used to force myself not to do that. But I wake up at almost about 3 o'clock in the morning, between 2 and 3 in the morning, almost every morning, and I'm up for an hour and a half. I'm not on not on my phone, not on other things. I'll read, I think, I'm just kind of in the space. It's the most creative space, most creative time I have of the day. there's nothing else going on. I'm not being frazzled. And I don't do it every single day, but I probably do it half of the week. I get up for an hour and a half in the middle of the night. And it's allowing myself to do it, not try to force myself back to sleep, has been super powerful. And the other thing that I do is I take little naps. I have alarms, and I take little naps in the day, and I turn off one part of the day and turn on the next part of the day. So I'll oftentimes, take like a 10-minute
Switch modes. Yeah.
and it lets my brain just, all the leaves come to the ground, and then I go into the next thing. And I have found those habits to be incredibly useful for clear thought.
If you look at old parenting manuals, that is the way that it used to be. So there are parenting manuals that tell parents to start separating the two sleeps into one sleep. So prior to that, people would go to sleep at 6 o'clock. They'd wake up at 10 and they'd go to the neighbors. They'd make dinner. They would do things for 2 or 3 hours and then go back for their second sleep. So we may be more inclined to do that than, because I do the same thing. I do kind of a 2 sleep.
Yeah. Dave, go
Well,
ahead.
and we're moving away from the industrialized reason to do that too.
Yeah.
In the sense of the 9 to 5, that was how we survived. Well, to Tamara's point, historically we were an agrarian society, and so you were up with the chickens, and again, Alex grew up on the farm. You had a different heritage there too.
Fortunately, I didn't have to get up with the chickens.
You were with the cows though.
Yeah.
Tell us about the cows, Alex.
So many cows. Yeah.
Let me get Dave in. Go ahead, Dave.
Well, I'm really happy to hear there's some sense of responsibility for choosing your time, and I'm with Lois on this one, because I long ago, when I'm in my 20s, set aside a time in the week for me to just sit and stare out the window and just do nothing for an hour. And it's like going to church, except you didn't have to leave your house. So it's similar to what we do with office hours, is we get people together for about an hour to answer questions with each other and share ideas, and then wander off. And I find in the early days of office hours, I came out excited and refreshed. And it was not just so early in the morning that my brain didn't connect yet, but it was the kind of thing that made me feel like I'd been part of something bigger than me. I think the sacred reflection is something that all of us know what it is. We just aren't making time for it. And that's where you hear me every week talking about personal responsibility. Yes. But people work their whole lives to stop and retire, and they don't. They can't enjoy it. And some people just work because they can't do anything else. The thing I saw in the rundown thing about how you connect with people, the thing that's missing in media is the limbic resonance. We can share as many verbal and visual ideas to each other as possible, but you can't connect to the other brain. So the other brain needs to know there's a brain out there, and then it's ready for that connection. And this is not even conscious. This is not something we know how to do. It's just how our brain works. And then the other aspect of it, which I think Leo's talking about, is that all of our interactions have suddenly been formalized, scheduled, put together, and we build our own life inside that maze. Excuse me. And Sky is right. If we go to a post-industrialized time, we won't be the 9 to 5 scale. But will it be 24 hours or will it be 3 hours? That's going to be the challenge.
If I love that word, if.
Yeah, I was
we're
going
there.
I mean, the other thing I think that's changed dramatically in all of this is that the time it takes to do or to get somewhere, and what the interruption there is when you're doing it. So I used to love sitting on the train, going somewhere, and there would be no Wi-Fi. There will be no internet. There'll be no communications. You could shut down. Exactly as Alex says, I also, if I've got projects to do, I will get up in the middle of the night and do them, because I find that it's the best time to ever.
You're up in the middle of the night right now.
Clean thinking. Yeah, it's 2:46 in the morning. But what's happened is that the time it takes to get anywhere has shrunk, so you can't read a book. I'm sure that in the past, to get from London to New York, you could read quite a few books on a ship. Now you're there in less time. And as of January, I think it is, British Airways have announced that it will be free Wi-Fi for every single person around the world from them. It's all Starlink, obviously, and there's just no downtime. There is that, and if you're still in the world of working, which most of us are, customers don't see time down. They see it as always on, always on, always on.
Yeah.
So since we
Let me just throw something in Sky, and it has to do with what we're doing right now, and this idea of Alex going for walks and not being connected. We have all spent quite a bit of time working on our curated self. I have a hard time getting on a Zoom anymore without 3-point lighting and a microphone and whatnot.
100%.
I'm literally I'm here or I don't turn my camera on.
Right.
Like I'm just
Absolutely.
I'm coming in over audio.
So
Like,
what's
I don't even
interesting to
try.
me is when we do turn all of this off, when we do give ourselves a pause, are we comfortable with
Well,
what
but
what
what I
we
would say
are?
is that I it's not just that though. For me, having a phone call or being in audio in Zoom allows me to pace, which is really
Yes.
important for my thought process. And so, so I do it more because when I'm thinking, I'll jump on to a lot of meetings, and if I don't, if a lot of people aren't turning their camera on, or if it's primarily a discussion and there's no one's going to show anything, I will almost always want to jump on with my phone, and you'll find that I'm much more, you know, if I'm in a meeting on a Zoom call, I'm mostly trying to figure out how quickly can we go through this. Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. If I'm in a meeting on a phone call, I will sit there and talk to you all day. Because I'm usually reordering my cables or doing the dishes or cleaning my pool. But it's, and that may seem like a crazy thing, but I'm much more relaxed. I'm much more creative, and I'm thinking about things in a much more fluid way than when I'm in a formal meeting, that I'm sitting there in. And so, I mean, I know what I can and can't. I can't do anything that requires any brain power while I'm talking to someone, but the function of moving I'm just one of those people that has to be kinetic. And so when I'm kinetic, I'm calm and I can sit there and talk and, yeah.
We do have a very different self when I'll just speak for myself, have a very different self when I'm disconnected. And I've put so much time and energy into this presentation of this curation of myself. Lois, let me jump over to you, and then Sky, please.
So one of the things I found interesting when we were reading the preparation document is the assumption that people have the same experience. And I think that it isn't just a matter of time, it's a matter of place, and it's a matter of what work you're doing as far as when those breaks, those pauses, when those happened in your life. And I think that that is still true today. So that the people who are working 9 to 5 have one experience. The people who are night shift in the hospital have a different experience. People who are on call whenever they're needed. And it's like, so now we have the opportunity of never pausing because we as individuals can be connected or be on our phones or playing games or whatever. And so our individual pauses, I think, become more useful. So the fact that somebody goes for a walk at a particular time every day, or someone else goes out and does the garden and ignores all of the other stuff. Those are things that as we individuals get more comfortable with doing, I think will be healthier than when you go from other people deciding things to, oh, I've got everything, I can do anything I want. And you fall into that pattern, and then, I need to pause. Okay, I'll take a Katie break. Katie was my kitten. I just take a Katie break. You can have one too.
I'm kind of riffing off of Lois's Katie kitty break. There we go. But Alex, since we have you here and this is a luxury. I'm grateful that you're here and thank you. But I'm kind of riffing back on Leo's comment about now that we have constant Wi-Fi available to us and access, my brain went back to the Matrix when he says, "Oh, the human body is just the copper top to drive the commerce." Well, in the Matrix, of course, they were driving the power grid. But I guess I'm kind of want to throw this ball to Alex in Lois's point that yes, now we have access to all of these tools, amazing things and opportunities, but are we the product for somebody else's treadmill? Are we
Oh,
the lab rats that are running the generator?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that could sideline the entire show. So I'm gonna be careful.
That's
I'm gonna
never
be careful what I
happened.
say, but we have to understand the amount that we're being used by large corporations and so on and
There it
so
is.
forth. I mean, if you look at, and it's something you have to kind of think through. Like if you think about how we're, in America, less in Europe for Leo, but in America, we are vessels for poisoned food that is highly profitable for large corporations. And so almost everything you eat is designed to make you eat more. It is designed to, and there's so much stuff in it that is just like, I mean, you look at seed, big thing is seed oil right now. That was used as like a loop. It was like an industrial oil, and they were like, well, if we can get people to eat it, like we can make a lot more money, and it's horrible for us, and it grinds our body into little, and we're being, as Americans especially, we're being ground into the ground by all of these, and then when you think about the way ad systems work, and the fact that they're constantly paying attention to you and constantly tapping you in the head and everything else, those are all things. And I've noticed it also because, like, for instance, I don't watch almost anything that has ads in it. So I'm not used to that constant stimulus anymore. Like, I don't know what movies are coming out. I don't know when those things are happening. I don't know when any of that happens anymore because I have YouTube Premium and Apple TV and Netflix without ads and all these other things. And like, I don't know when those things happen, but we're constantly being, our cortisol, our, body, system is constantly being attacked by all of these things. And there is this, we do have to push back, like I can tell you that I haven't lost a lot of weight yet. I've lost some, but a lot of it has to do with, Whole Foods is like when I've given up and I'm going to go get something, because I go to the farmer's market on Sunday. I'll go to
Yes.
farmer's market Sunday morning with
Yep.
cash. There's something about it. Let's get back to everything. I don't have my phone. I mean, I sometimes forget and I end up with my phone, but generally I have the money that I'm going to spend on food, and I go there and I buy everything I'm going to eat that week.
Do you ride your bike?
And
do you ride your bike there?
and I don't ride my bike. It's pretty far away.
Oh,
So it's there.
Very
So,
hilly.
but that process has gotten, it's, and it's funny, after, a year of doing that, and really kind of slowly ramping that up, I find my ability to eat the other kind of food, the food that comes in boxes, becomes less and less and less, because I put it in my body, and my body just reacts immediately, like, oh my gosh, I feel so sick, and you're just like, what are we doing here? But I think that is the, one of my big projects for this next year is to slow down on, I mean, when you're in production, to Leo's point, is it's very hard to say I can't work on a Sunday. Like I can't, it's, because there's productions that go on. I'm moving out of production as I go into next year. And one of my big focuses is that on Sundays, it's not, I can't say it'll be zero, but unless there's production or something that's due, that has to be done. And, I'm, turning Sunday off, and not necessarily all the electronics or all whatever, but I'm really not having myself have it be a work day, and I already feel Saturday's already, like, there's a lot of rituals with my daughter and with my son, and we do all kinds of stuff together. But Sundays, as we go into the new year, I'm really kind of ramping down, over the year, to do either things that I just enjoy, or mostly things that go as slow as possible. And I think that a lot of different faiths have that in their mix, because it turns out it's a pretty good idea. It's really hard to have an intentional life if you don't take a break once a week.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've realized as you're talking, Alex, I've known you now for 5 years. You have coached me. You've guided me. I'm getting weepy, and you're not dying, but you are going into a different pivot, into a different transition. And I've now realized I'm going to miss my daily dose of Lindsay. So I don't know what that means.
Daily dose
but
of Lindsay. That's going to be a new shorts series.
I value you as a human. I value you as a your soul, your spirit,
Okay.
and it's good to see you here, sir.
Yeah.
Dave and Tamra.
Yeah, I came across a couple of things recently watching conversations with Dr. Ian McGilchrist, who's written about the split brain and as well its effect on society and how media are doing things to us. And he was saying that storytellers need to protect their imagination, that a person who lives by their imagination needs that time. He also said he was talking about social autism, which is a huge subject for me right now. There are teachers he met in Canada who were commenting on how the children today are unable to interpret facial expressions because they've been on a screen most of their lives. And it is a problem for us to address however we can as parents and the rest, but it is something that is going to creep in, that people will almost refuse to meet you in person or refuse to take a job they couldn't work from home from and that sort of stuff. And I think, we're experiencing online as if it's chloroform and it's just giving us this easy feel all the time. So.
I think for me, post-COVID, like pre-COVID, in the dawn of time, I grew up in TV and film where literally my boss would walk out and be on a cell phone. I would be on a cell phone. We were on cell phones. I would leave my house at 4 o'clock in the morning so that I could ice skate before work because it was better than sitting in traffic for 3 hours. Because if you leave at a certain time, you're going to be in traffic for more time. The thing that happened in COVID where we were rushed home to work, and I worked in animation at the time, where they told us we could never work from home. You can't do animation from home. And within like a day, we were suddenly doing everything from home. I have become much more intentional about things. And, even coming here tonight, I could choose to come or not come. And I wanted to be with you and have a great conversation. And that was a priority equal to, other things I could have been doing at the time. And I think that what I've learned is that it's so easy. There's still time where I'm like on TikTok and I'm scrolling through and I'm like, what am I doing? Like that is absolutely, I don't care about any of these people. I'm not connected to them at all. And I think that when you really take an inventory of what your life is, when I look at what my life was running from a job all day, I'd get into my office at 6 a.m. and I would leave at like 8 or 9 or 11 p.m. And then I would work on the weekends and I was constantly in work and I was going to, meet with people for dinner and for lunch and doing all of those things that you're supposed to do. What I have realized now is I probably won't meet with you in person. You are my family or someone who is high on my list. I will not take a meeting in person to just kind of casually meet up. That is, I'm really intentional about who I'm spending my personal time with. The same is true in my Zoom time because I'm happy to take a meeting with someone for the first time in Zoom, and I do think relationships can form in Zoom. And then those people can, when I meet with them one-on-one, it's even more meaningful. But I've stopped taking meetings that don't matter. And I think about just even going to studios and pitching projects. You'd get to the studio, you'd get your parking spot, which was a million miles from whatever little office or hovel you had to go to. You'd run across there, everything would be sweaty. You'd get there. It was a flat conversation. And now when you pitch things, you go into your Zoom meeting, you're comfortable in your spot, they're comfortable in their spot. And I found the same rate of success in those things. And then we can move into a real relationship, a one-on-one relationship. I do think we can form relationships in digital spaces. And I think it's a much better starting place for me than it is wasting my time driving or wasting my time in conversation that I don't care about.
Yeah. Tony and then Alex.
I have a different problem with the pause. And part of that problem is Alex Lindsay's fault. And the reason
Isn't it always
that
Alex Lindsay's fault?
Oh yes. Oh yes. Sure.
And I have to say that part of it is that at the beginning of the pandemic, I was dealing with a lot of serious illnesses, and I am still dealing with a lot of different things health wise. But one of the things that I understand very clearly is that if it were not for the experience that I've had with the office hours community and the things that we have done in the office hours community, there would be a small rural church that would not have any support whatsoever, that has done plays, that has broadcasted on YouTube, that is doing some amazing things with them just being a very few number of people. And the individual that you're looking at right now, while he may look reasonably healthy, does have some significant issues, and he would not be allowed to participate in a dialogue and exchange like this, or for conversation with Tony Mobley. Those things don't exist if there is no office hours and Alex Lindsay promoting it. And the other part of the pause that I find myself dealing with is because of all of the things that I've experienced, and because of the illnesses and all of that, I find myself not wanting to pause. And I blame you, Alex, because there is this thirst for wanting to know more and wanting to do better. And it is difficult, and some of my church people might be watching tonight, so I'm going to say this very carefully. I aggravate them, I know, because I'm always pushing them to do better. Because I understand very clearly that time is short and that we need to maximize the things that we're doing, particularly when we claim that we are people of faith and that we are pushing for excellence. And I know it's a target that you never reach. I understand that. But it doesn't diminish the desire to do the best you can, to be the best you can, to work as hard as you can. And so I understand the need for the pause, but I'm not able to lean into. Now I take my breaks and I do the things that I need to do to keep healthy. But for me, there is a sense of urgency about what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And so I struggle with that. And, if you guys want to offer some help after the conversation, I'd appreciate it. But in all seriousness, there is this need to continue to work, to continue to learn, to continue to push, and to be the best person that I can be. And that if I'm not sure if office hours didn't exist, or this, and I know I'm putting it up on a high pedestal, but there was not an opportunity for me to engage in the way in which I'm engaging now if that platform didn't exist.
I think one of the things you're talking about, Tony, though, is the interconnectivity that we have. So I will just post this out there. Tony, your impact in what you're able to do with the things you've learned in office hours, but also who you are as a person, is far greater than I think you understand. I can tell you personally, for me, I got up this morning. I did not go to church with my family. I wasn't feeling well. And you sent me a link from your last sermon, and I watched you this morning. And I felt completely edified. And it was exactly what I needed, even though I was watching it later than when you said it. And I do feel like that connectivity, that ability to reach people in a very real way, is what we've gotten from office hours. It's what we have here. It's why we show up and have conversations that are deep conversations, and why we've grown in different ways. I have different relationships with everybody on this panel in very different ways, some stronger than others. And I think that all of those things, Sky sent me an email that he sends out once a month that is, completely, I read it and it touches me in a way that he may have intended, and he may not understand how that goes. And I do think that that's the power of these groups. That's the power of making connections and being human. And I don't think that that is exclusive to being one-on-one in person. And I think that that's the part that we have a hard time with, because we know that on the one hand, it is a total time suck sometimes, and is completely everything about technology that is negative in the press happens. It's real. It is not, it's not fake. But the other side of that, that I think is why we're connected here, why office hours is connected. And I have different relationships with different people in office hours in totally different ways. My Sunday crew on office hours, it's just a totally different experience than anything else. So I feel like that sometimes we can't see the reach that we have, and we just come and chat with our friends, and we don't know how that's hitting other people, and how we're being used by whatever it is to witness and to be a part of other people's lives. And I do think that office hours has created a connectivity with us that extends outside of office hours. It extends to me being a distant congregant of your church. It extends to Zoom Test Kitchen. It extends to all these other areas that we've all branched out into, that aren't that original thing. So I think there's a real power in that. And so that pause, and that constant pause, but that desire for perfection and desire to go, I think that is a competing factor.
Alex,
And
go ahead.
I think that, yeah, I think that for me, there's a couple things. One is that a virtual experience, whether it's office hours or other things, there are so many people that I'm connected to in this panel, but also all of office hours, where you couldn't have that in person because we're all over the world. And I think that that's the possibility of this kind of virtual connection with other people, is this seamlessness of global, like we're setting up this music studio to do recordings that'll first start on January 4th. But Rocket's been wiring this up, and we just got Marcia connected, and she's in Omaha, Nebraska, cutting the show, and for all the tests and everything else. And that isn't, like having the best people putting all this stuff together is not something that we're hoping to get Tlaloc to be able to run the lights, and have have other people running the audio, and being able to seamlessly just think about a global team that's going to come together and make this happen is something that has only been possible recently, especially in the length of humankind. That said, the being in person, there is something, I think there's a richness that when we in office hours meet each other, there is a foundation of knowingness that we already have because of all the virtual interactions and everything else, that makes being together in person even more powerful, because it's, there's no, like, we're not getting up to speed. We already, we already know each other. We've already seen each other so many times, and know each other well, that in person. And I think that we also have to think about the assumption that all matter is the way it is. I don't want to get too metaphysical, but being around each other, there is something else there. When we're around other people. And I've had those experiences in where there's an enormous amount of energy going in one direction. I was helping with some AV in Zimbabwe, in a church. Someone in one of my classes I was teaching in Zimbabwe, and they said, "Do you want to come to our church? We have some video. We'd like to show it to you." And so I was like, "Sure, I'll come and see it." And you think that it's going to be like this little church with little things. It's 4,000 people and jibs and, all this other stuff that I was just like, my mind was kind of blown. But there's 4,000 people, 4,000 Africans singing, hymns that I grew up with, but at a level that I had never experienced before. Like, it was just, just this incredible amount of power. And there were literally tears coming out of my eyes for no reason. Like, I don't know what they're saying. It's in Shona. Like, I don't know what they're singing. I just could feel it, feel something there. So I think that there's something powerful there. And I think that also, we don't want to give up on serendipity, in the sense that, when I was speaking, years ago, 25 years ago, I was speaking in front of I went to this thing, I speak in a lot of things, and I looked in the back of the room, and there was this beautiful woman in the back of the room, and she was African-American. And so I was like, and I worked in Africa, and trying to get her attention. And then I got this crazy email, really long email about, from a woman that I assumed was the person in the front row that had kind of crazy hair. And she came up to me afterwards, and then she was like, "Oh, I'll email you later." And so I got this long email, but I had this rule at the time that I would always take a meeting for 20 minutes from anybody, so I get this crazy long email. And so I said, "Oh, this is going to be hard," because I was just this woman in the front row. I was just like so afraid of meeting with her. But I was like, this is my rule, because I always wanted to know that people would meet with me, as a little company. And so I opened the door, and it was the girl in the back of the room, not the girl in the front of the room, the woman in the front of the room. And she's now my wife. So I think about being so structured that I don't allow serendipity. And I think that that's the other side of this, is that, that there isn't just this kind of openness to it. And that can be something, I think, that can be as basic as being able to take meetings with other folks. But the other thing that I've kind of taken on is in almost every interaction that I have, especially with strangers, I take on seeing the child in them, like that kid that was 12 years old. And I dare people to try that. It is the most fun. The cashier, the person you're buying stuff from, whatever, if you look for it, you'll see it, who that person was when they were 12, and if you talk to that person, they will come out immediately. Like, not like don't talk to them like a kid. That will not come out. But if you see that person inside of them, that's there, it's an incredible experience. But it's only something you do when you're in person, So I think that there's I think I see both sides of it, of like, could never scale and never have the community that I'm part of today without this technology we're using right now. But I really savor, I've learned, and I'm very introverted, so it's very hard for me to like interact with people in person. It's really much easier now. But I think that taking those things on has made a huge difference.
Lois, go ahead.
So let's bring it back to what our topic was about taking pauses and not. And from everything that I've heard people say here, I hear that pauses are good. And whether they are paused in a group, like me going to a Quaker meeting, or paused individually, like getting up at 3 a.m. for an hour, that we are in control of whether or not we take a pause. And I would hope that you all of you out there will take a pause after this show is over and think about things. So, okay, aren't we? Who's wrapping this up?
Well, I'm going to Leo and then Sky.
So very quickly, I will be quick. I think one of the things about this show and the other shows on Office Hours is they are pauses. I actually look at them as pauses from the actual general day-to-day stuff. And that's exactly, I find them thinking time. I think the issue we have, and the whole reason of this conversation, is that the world around us is moving at a rate that is really hard, and it's being pushed faster and faster. So in the business world, the expectation of your on time and your off time has been completely flipped to where when I started work, it was 9 till 5, and you never ever heard from a customer or anybody else when you're on holiday for 2 weeks. Now that experience has just gone, absolutely gone, and I see it with young people. My own kids, they're expected to communicate all of the time, because if they don't, then there's somebody else in the line that will take the job from them. So that's where the difference is. And that's how I see it changing.
Beautiful. Sky, take it away.
I think change is going to happen, whether we are on the train to want to be on part of the change or not. So the question is, Leo, to your children's, the change is going to happen. Is it happening faster than what you and I grew up with? Absolutely. The metaphor that I came with in trying to do the wrap up, do the benediction here, to steal that from Tony, but would be to look at the other in the moment we are there. And here's my 2026 challenge for myself, is that they are the most, let me rephrase that. They feel that they are the most important person that that the conversation we've had that they will have all week. Now that's an attitude and it's an aspiration, but I take the aspiration from Alex Lindsay of having a global conversation where nobody is left out. And it's almost a tactic. So to be in the moment with the other, that they feel, not you, it's not about me, it's about them. And they feel that the conversation you had, was the most important conversation they had all week. So try to put timelines on it. We can go back to the big grid because I love the Brady Bunch of us. And Lindsay, you done good, sir.
Thanks.
Yeah, he's done good. I just want to bring in John wrote in the chat. My employees receive negative feedback if I see them logging in during time off. I love that. And then John Wallace, each person's pause is unique in how they recharge themselves. I need a break from people, he writes. My brother recharges by surrounding himself with others. And it made me think that, and Lois, you got to this earlier, you mentioned this earlier, that it's not one size fits all, that this idea of a pause may have indeed been the way that society structured itself, that the entire country would close down on Sundays, but we've evolved since then. And the fundamental question now is what feeds you, what nourishes you? And if getting up and watching office hours on a weekday morning or watching extra hours of rundown, if that nourishes you, then that's what you need and that's what you should do. And Tony, it goes back to what you were saying before. If what nourishes you is that constant striving to do better, to grow, to learn, gay goes on to hay, as we say in the old country, right? Like go and do it. That's if that's what nourishes you, then that's where we should be putting our time and our energy. And I know that for me, at least, this is recharging for me, and I'm really grateful to all of you. I would invite Alex back for future shows, but I'm not going to. Because he ain't coming.
One more.
You can come next week. If you're free, you're welcome
I'll come
to
next
come.
week.
But
if you'll have me next week, I'll come back.
You're welcome to come next week.
Okay,
but
great. So much fun.
But wishing you safe travels if you're not able to make it back. We'll see you during the week, of course, though, this coming week, I hope. And to Lois and Sky and Leo and Tony and Tamara and Dave, thank you all so much for being here. And a special thank you to Vienna and John Wallace and John Snyder and Kyle and Dan and Tlalak and everyone who's watching and commenting. Paul in the chat, really, really enjoy having you, and your voices are so important and so precious to this conversation. We will be here next week on New Year's Day. And we hope to see you here too. Back in Ukana, back on YouTube. Have a fantastic week. And again, if you're still celebrating, keep on celebrating. Merry, happy, everything. Have a lovely rest of the night, everyone.